Okay, the time is now 7 o'clock. I call this meeting to order on October the 11th, 2011. Item number 1, call this meeting to order, establish a quorum. We do have a quorum. Item number 2, pledge of allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flags, and we do have some students that will be assisting us with this from Rangerville.
Good evening. Today with us is 2 students from Rangerville Elementary. Leading us in the invocation is Caitlin Danielle Garza, a 4th grade student who is 9 years old. Parents are Melissa Riggs and Dennis Garza. Her favorite subject is science. She enjoys swimming, reading, and going to the beach. Was in UIL for 2 years, cheerleading for 2 years, and A honor roll student. Practicing for her role as Peter Pan in a play for her after-school program, she is fascinated by the weather and wants to become a meteorologist when she grows up. Leading us in the pledge is Jason Noah Martell. He is a 4th grade student who is 9 years old. Parents Jason and Irma Martell. His favorite subject is math. He enjoys playing football, basketball, video games, reading, and going to the beach. He has participated in flag football for Rangerville for 1 year, has been a member of the Rangerville Chess Club for the past 2 years, won last year competing in the regional tournament, is an AB honor roll student, and participates in the after-school program. Noah wants to become a lawyer when he grows up. Will their parents please stand to be recognized? Also here with us today is Araceli Salinas. She is their principal. Can you please stand and be recognized? Can y'all come to the front? Will everybody please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Will everybody please remain standing for the invocation?
Father, we thank you for the opportunity to begin this school year, and we ask that you bless the students, faculty, and our school board members that make our student district a great place. We pray that you guide this meeting and that every decision that is made today will benefit our students. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Amen.
And again, thank you to the parents for allowing your child to participate. At this time, we're going to go ahead and do roll call. Mr. Hector Leal, Vice President. Ms. June Aguilera, Secretary.
Present.
Mr. Oscar de la Fuente, Trustee.
Here.
Mr. Julian Huerta, Trustee.
Present.
Mr. Oscar Medrano, Trustee.
Present.
Mr. Bob Tumberlinson, Trustee.
Here.
Mr. Antonio G. Limon, Superintendent.
Present.
And Mr. Gus Acevedo, School Attorney.
Here.
Item number 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of October 11th, 2011 with any corrections or deletions. Item number 6, public comment. At this time, we do have one member of the audience who will be participating in public comment. The undersigned wishes to address, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and backtrack to item number 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of October 11th, 2011 with any corrections or deletions. Do I have a motion
I'll move
to
to
approve?
approve.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Medrano and seconded by Mr. Julian Huerta. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 6, public comment. The undersigned wishes to address the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees and by his or her signature shows into the board that he or she understands the following provisions to addressing the board. The person wishing to address the Board of Trustees shall register with the presiding officer or designee no later than 5 minutes before the announced time of the school board meeting, shall state their full name, shall state what organization or group, if any, is represented, shall state the topic they wish to address before the school board, shall refrain from commenting directly on any individual school district employee or public official by name, but may instead refer to a specific employment area, job title, or the Board of Trustees as a whole, and shall refrain from attacks on individuals. The person wishing to address the Board of Trustees should do so in accordance with the following San Benito CISD Board Policy BED, Board Meetings Public Participation Guidelines. The speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to give his or her presentation. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views before the Board of Trustees. Presentations shall be informative and shall pertain to school-related issues. Any attack on an individual shall be considered disruption of the meeting. The Board of Trustees shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. At this time, I'd like to call Mr. John Hand.
Thank you. Superintendent Limon, President Rodriguez, members of the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees. I'm John Hand. I'm president of the San Benito TSTA. This is Norma Carrizales, who is one of our outstanding members of our organization. I'd like to share with you some thoughts on Senate Bill 8, or as we call it, the Pandora's Box of Education. In mythology, Pandora was the first woman of the world and was given a box by Zeus with orders never to open it. Ignoring Zeus, Pandora opened the box and thus released all the evils of the world into the world. The one thing that was not released was hope. Senate Bill 8 gives you, the trustees and superintendent of our school district, a collection of bad choices that, like Pandora's box, can unleash a great deal of pain and a lack of hope within the district. Thanks to a state budget that makes good governance difficult, I realize you may soon have to make very difficult decisions about how our district is run. Already we've seen how the financial restrictions have impeded the education of our children. We see larger class sizes, limits on use of supplies, and pressures placed on all educators to do more with less. In the future, our teachers may not receive contracts until 10 days before the last day of instruction instead of the 45 days they have had in the past. But back to Senate Bill 8, which gives you the power to request a financial exigency, and if approved by the Commissioner of Education, could go into effect as early as next school year. If this exigency is declared, then Pandora's box is opened to allow for a variety of changes. All employees may be furloughed up to 6 non-instructional days. Teacher and administrator salaries may be reduced. Mid-year terminations may be heard by either a Board of Trustees or an independent hearing examiner. A reduction in personnel may allow a district to terminate its most experienced contract personnel first rather than last. If a contract person is suspended without pay, the case is heard by an independent hearing officer. The board may overturn the officer's findings, even if the findings are in favor of the person suspended. These and other provisions of Senate Bill 8 present the board and the superintendent with a large number of unpleasant and difficult choices. I hope none of these choices need to be made, but in the event that some are implemented, I'm asking that you give our organization a seat at the table where these choices are to be made. TSTA represents teachers, administrators, and education support personnel. If we are faced with changes in transportation or food service, the input of an experienced bus driver or cook would be most enlightening. Who knows more about keeping a school clean and safe than a good custodian or security officer? And who knows the ins and outs of teaching and learning better than a highly qualified teacher? We have these kinds of people in our organization, and I believe that their contribution to any future decision-making processes would be invaluable. I close with the thought that we may not have to deal with all the exigencies that Senate Bill 8 seems to encourage. The bill seems to say, don't expect funds, figure out a way to do more with less. It is indeed a Pandora's box of education. Even though hope did not escape from Pandora's box into the world, let us find hope in the strength and goodwill of all of us who are doing our level best to educate our children. And to commemorate Pandora's box, Ms. Carzales and I would like to give you each a miniature Pandora's box with the caution, please don't open it, please. She will pass out the box and I'll pass out, you have the key to that box. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Madam President. This time, we'd like to report to the board the following items. The report on Performance-Based Monitoring Analysis System, or PBMAS, for special education. Texas Education Agency ranks districts on their special education programs by assigning stages from 0 through 4, with 0 being the highest stage. This year, in September the 14th of 2011, TEA released their findings for San Benito CISD special education program. We are projecting a stage 0, indicating that we are meeting all 18 indicators of a successful program. This is the first time that the special education department has been placed on the highest stage of performance. This accomplishment is due to the diligent work of Mrs. Teresa Cantu and her staff. All state required procedures, staff training, monitoring of students, and academic assessments have continually been monitored and improved. Ms. Cantu, are you present? Will you step forward and like to publicly acknowledge you and your staff for all the hard work that you have done in bringing us to a projected stage 0 in PBMAS.
Thank you, Mr. Limon. I would like to take this opportunity to thank San Benito CISD School Board of Trustees. You have really supported us over the past 5 years, and we really appreciate it. And I think what really made the difference is your support, but I'd especially like to thank Mr. Limon and Ms. Sanchez for truly becoming stakeholders. And with your support, I know Ms. Sanchez sat through many trainings, 6-7 hours a day with the administrators, and Mr. Limon participated in many of them. And I think that really sent the message to our administration and teachers, the buy-in from the administrative staff. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, and thank you for your words of support to our department, because it was really appreciated.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very much. Good job. Next on the superintendent's report, we have the news that San Benito CISD has been awarded the Elementary and Secondary School Counseling Demonstration Program Grant. The goal of this grant is to develop, implement, and evaluate a comprehensive developmental guidance and counseling curriculum and program. Activities implemented will address closing the gap between students to mental health professional and reducing disciplinary referrals. The 3-year grant that is awarded is for $389,589 per year, for a total of $1,168,767. I would like to congratulate Ms. Sanchez and her department that have always been very aggressive when it comes to going out for grants, have brought in over $20 million worth of grants to this district in the last 5 to 10 years, and this is just one more feather in the cap. Ms. Sanchez, congratulations, and let me let you address this a bit on the counseling grant that I know will be of great benefit to our students.
Thank you, Mr. Limon.
a school psychologist, and of course an external evaluator to evaluate the progress of the program. It is our hope that we will be able to, in these 3 years, develop a guidance and counseling curriculum that will serve all our students K-12. And that's what the goal of the grant is.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, very much for your hard work in this. And again, this will benefit our students, and other districts are paying for this out of their own money. And we were fortunate enough to be able to get this from a grant for the next 3 years. Thank you. Next item on the superintendent's report, the Finance Committee and the Building Committee both requested that this item be brought to the full board for a presentation. We have a presentation by TASB DMI Integral Solutions Group on the possible savings on energy management. I'll turn it over to Ron McVeigh. He'll introduce the gentleman that's with him. And this presentation is for the board on energy savings.
President Rodriguez and members of the board and Commissioner Lamont, we really want to thank you for giving us the opportunity once again to present some information to you that's very common, and it's a program that has been very useful in the K-12 market, especially with the financial crisis that you're facing today. Kind of falls into the programs of doing more with less. That's what this program is. Ron McVeigh mentioned, my name is Bill Savarino, and I'm a representative of DMI Integral. You can see in the on the presentation, you'll see the TASB logo. We'll talk a little bit about that. This is a TASB service. This is a TASB DMI Integral joint partnership, and we would be implementing this program to San Benito CISD jointly. What this program is this is an energy efficiency facility improvement program. It's a program that addresses air conditioning, lighting, energy management system, could be roofing, could be windows, water conservation, anything that would create energy savings and would solve comfort issues within your buildings can be included in this type of a project. So as we move forward in the presentation, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. We'll talk about an intro into DMI and TASB and what that relationship actually is. We'll talk about the conceptual approach, where's the money coming from. That's always the big key that would pay for such a program. I'll just give you a quick overview of the program and the benefits that we bring to the table, and then a step-by-step procurement options, and as far as going from A to Z, a snapshot of what that would look like. Next slide. So first, DMI Integral and TASB on-site services. Next slide. As I mentioned, my name is Bill Savarino. I've been doing these type of projects as a business development representative for the last 16 years, typically in South Texas. Ron McVeigh is also a DMI Integral representative. I was born and raised here in the Rio Grande Valley, Mercedes, graduated from McAllen. Ron currently lives in Mercedes. Also in attendance, we have Michael De Leon. He's our TASB representative, so if there's any questions that come up regarding TASB, we have that representative here also. In terms of how did TASB get involved in this sort of a service, and what is the relationship? About a year and a half ago, TASB was receiving phone calls from their school districts across the state asking, do you do energy services? Do you do energy conservation projects? The answer was no, 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 no for years. And they finally made a decision that they wanted to help their clients, their school districts, and started looking into doing these sort of projects. What ended up happening is they could have selected anybody in the industry, and they chose our company, DMI Integral, because of our business model and our people, the most experienced people in the industry from top to bottom. And we have developed that partnership, so now they can offer school districts these services whenever they are requested. As the partnership, we provide the construction, the engineering, the design, the implementation of the project, all the construction management. We bring financing to the table. We bring that part of the project. TASB brings accountability, overview from start to finish. They want to implement an energy policy if San Benito should need one. They want to implement a human behavioral type of program as part of the project. They also do HVAC inventory. Your staff does a fantastic job with that already, so I'm not sure how much they would take advantage of that, but it is a service that TASB brings to the table as part of our joint project. Now, the conceptual approach of the program is, and this is always the big deal, where's the money going to come from to pay for this? Well, why this is so popular is, let's say, and this is pretty close, last year you spent $4.4 million, a little over $4.4 million on your utilities, electricity, gas. This example would be electricity. Next slide. We identify facility improvements. Like I said, it could be air conditioning, could be lighting, mechanical, whatever it would be. We would identify what those are, and we would, next slide, as we implement those projects, savings on some of those, savings will, there'll be an opportunity there will be derived from those improvements. Those savings, in this particular case, let's just say we were to save 20%. Well, 20% of what you spent is $894,000 annually. That $894,000 would pay for the entire cost of the project. So if you do the project, if you don't do the project, you're going to spend that money. You're just writing the check to utility companies. If you do the project, get your facility improvements, your utility budget will be reduced by that amount. We use those dollars that are saved to pay for the entire cost of the project over a term. So in the example, we're going to leverage the savings to pay for the debt service instead of you coming out of your fund balance to address air conditioning or wherever else you may have to grab those funds to pay for the facility improvements. Next slide. So over a 15-year period, you can see that you've created over $13 million. Even over a 10-year period, that's $8.9 million. So it's a pretty significant amount of money that you can create yourself with dollars that you're currently spending today. It's just simply redirecting those dollars from utility budget to pay for the facility improvements. Next slide. Most of these projects are financed. We don't have a preference how you do that, but to let you know, most school districts use maintenance notes or municipal lease purchases, and we set up the financing to where whatever the annual debt service is for the project, the payment for the project will be equal to or less than whatever the annual savings is, to make sure that the district has the funds available to pay for the debt service. Keep in mind, we'll go after every SECO incentive. I know that we had that Cool Schools grant that we helped complete the application for you. Unfortunately, we were notified yesterday that San Benito was not awarded the grant, which is really too bad, but you scored really well. You were 5 points off what we figured out was the deadline. However, there is a chance that there may be some dollars, and so they may just continue from that point on. So there's still some hope there that maybe we can get some money out of that. We'll look at any of your utility incentive programs, and then of course if there's any state or clear result score program, any time that we can find incentives as a result of energy conservation, we will go out, complete the application, and find those dollars for you. As far as what really is the differentiator of our company from what's out there in the marketplace, you know, I know your district went out for a performance contract back in the 90s, and I got into that a little bit too late, and I wish y'all would have gone with our company, but you didn't. But we're recommending, based on our experience, a little bit different procurement to do these type of projects. And what we are recommending to the school district is doing a design build procurement for an energy conservation project versus a performance contract, and here's why. Next, on the right there in the blue, the 4491 is your performance contract and procurement, which is what you did last time. On the left would be the design build that we are recommending. So in the first step in a performance contract on both phases, you're going to go out for an RFQ, and basic qualifications that you would select from, like an architect or an engineer, corporate qualifications, personnel, experience, references. In a performance contract, at that point, you make a selection and you enter into a contract and move forward with it. That's what you did previously. What we're recommending is short list, go to a phase 2, and now you can ask these type of questions. What is your cost and methodology? What's your profit? What's your overhead? All of those cost type questions and dollar questions that you are not allowed to ask in a performance contract, you can ask in this procurement. And that's why we're recommending you do that. And then from that point on, it picks up identical where it was before. You select a company, and then you go into the investment grade audit. That's where the project is developed, and then it comes back to the board for a construction contract, and then you implement the project. This is, I think, a good snapshot. This is what a performance contract brings to you. we feel that it's much more important that you get more information and about that company. If that company is the iceberg, don't just look at the tip. You need to you need to learn everything about that, including cost-related questions. So then we're all about open book versus lump sum pricing. We want to be open and transparent, a huge deal with TASB. TASB is all about transparency, and that is one thing. You want to see what our subcontractors' costs are? We have no idea. We have no issue showing what those dollars are and what those subcontracts are. Complete open book. We're going to be flexible with our guaranteed savings. There's different ways to do that. We're not stuck on one. Whatever the district would prefer, we'll guarantee it the way that you feel is needed to guarantee that. A lot of times in our industry, contingencies are, if they're not used, they're rolled back into the project for profit. But we're saying if we don't use contingency, all that money goes back to San Benito CISD. This one right here is a huge deal, and it's a huge benefit for the district and a huge differentiator for us. We're product independent. Previously, for 14 years, and the majority of these type of companies that do these type of work, these type of projects, are manufacturers of product. And typically, an incentive for them to be in this business is to sell a project so that they can move their product in the project. Whether that's air conditioning, whether it's energy management systems, whether it's lighting. Our company is product independent. We are not a manufacturer. We're all about finding the issues, coming up with solutions, and getting the best product, most competitively priced product to take care of those issues. So a huge advantage, financial advantage, and a financial benefit for our company when we go head to head. Texas-based, we're only in Texas. All of our employees are here in Texas. Any dollar that is spent with our company stays in the state, and that's a big deal. And then, of course, this is a huge deal. No upfront capital required for the project whatsoever from start to finish. And then step-by-step and procurement options, we'll briefly go through this. The first step that we would do is to do an audit to see if this is even something that would be feasible. No cost. We'll just simply take several days. We'll pick 5 facilities. We'll walk your facilities. We'll come back to you or the facilities committee or whoever it is Mr. Limon would like us to present it to and say, hey, there is an opportunity here. We think that there's enough savings and enough need here that warrants this type of project. Or we'll come back and say, you know what, we don't see enough savings here to really be able to generate a self-funding project. Again, there's no cost associated with that project. If the district were to move forward and want to move forward with the project, at that time is whenever the district would go out for an RFQ, where we would be a company that would be responding also. And then based on the request for qualifications on the proposals, the district would make a selection of an ESCO that would need to come back to the board for approval. You would enter into a project development agreement. The only way the district would pay a dime for that project development agreement, with us anyway, is if we come back to you with a self-funding project, just like we agreed to, that we have found enough savings to pay for the entire cost of the project, and the district says, you know what, thanks, but no thanks, we're not interested anymore, then we get reimbursed for the cost of that audit. If we come back to you and we cannot find enough savings to provide you with a self-funding project, we eat the cost of that, no cost to the district. And then third, that can happen if we come back to the district and with a self-funding project and the district moves forward with the project, the cost of that audit is rolled into the construction. So again, never any upfront cost for San Benito CISD for the entire project. So the project development will go out, and that's where we go out and we find the scope of work. We finalize the scope. We come up with a guaranteed maximum price. We secure the funding, bring in a comprehensive project back to you, back to the board before it goes to construction, and then the board would at that point would need to approve a construction contract before it goes into construction. So it would require a second school board vote. As mentioned earlier, what we would recommend you do, and this is what we had offered to do for San Benito CISD, is we will do what we call a BCA, business case analysis, which is a quick walk through your facilities, kind of a bird's eye view of what we selected 5 facilities to look at based on your uses. San Benito High School, Veterans, Jordan Middle School, Cavaza Middle School, Ed Downs Elementary School. Just kind of a sample that we pulled from, and we thought we would look at those facilities, come up with what we see as potential, bring that information back to the district, to your administration, and then go, if it's something you want to do, really sit down with a workshop, make sure everyone understands the project, the legislation associated with the project, just really a full-blown workshop, procurement, make sure that everyone understands and there's nothing left unturned. So you can see the square footage that we'd be looking at is a little over $1 million, and in those facilities you're spending $2.5 million today. So that's almost $2.30 a square foot, which is pretty darn high. But and what's fascinating about some of the numbers, either we have some incorrect data somewhere because your staff, whenever we did the grant and when we put together the grant application, we were able to see a lot of your facilities, and your facilities are in great shape. And so we're not exactly sure what the deal is. Maybe it's a billing error, or maybe we can find some things where we can really help the district. But somewhere along the line, there is something wrong that there should be a substantial amount of savings potential in these buildings based on the preliminary numbers that we're kind of seeing. So that's pretty much the presentation. Again, what we're recommending is the BCA, no cost, no financial obligation whatsoever to San Benito CISD. Any questions?
Yeah, when you talk about the financing for this project, do you guarantee the financing, or do we have to guarantee the financing?
When you say guarantee, the guarantee the savings, or guarantee go out and get the financing?
Yeah, who gets the financing? The school district. Who signs on the bottom line?
It's a financing arrangement between the school district and the bank.
Okay, so the school district basically is going to ask the bank for a loan to finance your project, right?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you get the financing? You can't get the financing?
We have done that in the past, but typically what we would do is we would turn right back around and sell that financing to the bank, but that's something that we can bring to the table.
Well, what I'm worried about is that we're going to go out and get financing, and we're going to put the school district signature on the line, and then if the project doesn't work, the bank doesn't care. They still want their money.
Right.
And in fact, the bank can turn around and sell those notes to third parties, and we'd have to pay those third parties regardless of how the project turns out.
Regarding that particular subject, we will be guaranteeing the savings that you will be paying that debt service. So if our company, if we set up the financing where it's a $500,000 a year payment, our savings that our company is going to guarantee, and if we don't meet the guarantee, we have to write you a check for the difference. If we're going to structure it to where if your payment is $500,000 a year, then the guaranteed savings is going to be equal to or greater than $500,000 a year.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Let's say you don't meet the $500,000 threshold.
Yes, sir. We have to write you a check for the difference to cover that shortfall. That's why school districts, that's why this program is.
Okay. Do you have insurance? Let's say your company cannot write those checks. Okay. Let's say you guarantee an $800,000 savings. Okay, and you only save us $400,000. We're still going to owe the bank $800,000.
Exactly.
Now, are you bonded, or do you have insurance that in case your company cannot pay the $400,000, that we can go after somebody to make up the $400,000?
Well, there's a two-part answer to that. One is we're bonded, not a problem, but that still doesn't mean that you can go out of business. There are such things as savings guarantee bonds that we don't think is a good cost or a good for the district to spend that money. Basically, it's a little insurance policy, what you're talking about. But I think the biggest, and I think probably what I wasn't, or how I couldn't answer a question for my first 14 years like I can answer that question today, is that is the beauty of having TASB behind our company. And that's the beauty about that partnership, is it is a TASB DMI integral. And if TASB wasn't comfortable with this type of a scenario, TASB wouldn't put their name on it and their logo all over it.
Well, I don't think TASB is going to pay the bank either. I mean, frankly. I mean, if there's a $400,000 shortfall, we're going to have to pay it. because we entered into a similar contract with another company
Yes, sir.
several years ago.
Right.
And we signed notes to finance that. And what wound up happening is that company was shortchanging us.
Right.
But we couldn't go after that company or sue that company because they had sold, the bank that was financing the project had sold the notes to a third party. And the third party came back and told the school district, hey, we don't care whether you got your savings or not. You still owe us the money.
Right.
So we basically wound up having to foot the bill for not having the energy savings, and then we had to foot the bill and paying the third party.
Right.
Now what is that called, Gus? They call it in other words, like when a third party buys a note, there's no defense to having to make the payment. Isn't that correct?
You're going to be liable. You're the guarantor.
Right. In other words, if you're asking us to sign a note with a bank, right, and the bank turns around and sells that account or sells that loan to a foreign company, well, the foreign company is going to come over here and tell us, we don't have an excuse. We can't tell that foreign company, hey, we didn't get the savings we were anticipating. Something happened. The foreign country is going to say, we don't care. You owe us the money.
Right.
So I want your company, or want to know if your company is going to pay the bank or whoever purchased the note from the bank in case things don't work out the way you say they're going to work out.
Okay. Okay, so make sure I understand. I understand. I understand where you're going, but if our
you guarantee the financing. In other words, are you going to sign the note, like the school district is going to sign the note to finance this project?
We can sign. Yes, sir. We can sign a note. But then the financing would be from the district to us.
Well, then you're not guaranteeing the note.
Well, but we're. I think. Okay. Well, I think maybe this is where it's.
Well, did you have a finance committee meeting to address these
Yes, sir.
questions?
See, and I think, bottom line is, regardless of any sort of a project that you do, you could have a company can go belly up anytime. I think one is, TASB, before TASB made a selection of a company, that is one of the things that they looked at because they don't want egg in their face also. But if our company is guaranteeing the savings, and I think, I don't want to be compared to the company that you entered into agreement with before, because we are a lot different than that, and I'm very familiar with that company. The way that we structure our contracts, the way that we structure our savings, how we come up with our savings, what is included in that savings, that's part of the workshop that we do. We don't use these stipulated dollars or savings that can be used for shortfalls and so forth. So I think that's part of the difficulty that y'all had was might have had to do with how this thing was put together previously.
Well,
because the company that you dealt with is a huge company.
Yeah, it's a huge company.
But they didn't structure it correctly.
Well, they promised us all kinds of savings.
Yes, sir.
And it was real funny, the way they wound up promising us these savings is that they raised the temperatures at the schools.
Right.
We're going to save you all this money, and the way they did it was they just raised the air conditioning temperatures at all the schools,
right.
And we wound up getting mold.
Right.
In some of these schools because the temperature had been raised.
Right.
And that's how they were saying, oh, well, we saved you all this money. And,
right.
and it wound up being a big mess. And then we had financed that project with the bank. And the bank was, we don't care about your project. We don't care if you have mold. We don't care if the project didn't work. You signed a note saying that you were going to pay us and we want our money.
Right.
So we basically wound up buying a lemon and then having to pay the bank
right.
for that lemon. And that's just, something that I want to know if your company is going to say, we'll get you the financing, San Benito School District, and when you go to the bank and you sign a note to borrow, $1 million, we're going to co-sign. And in fact, we'll be the first guarantor of that note. And we'll pay it first, and then you can pay.
And provide you a savings guarantee?
Well, yeah,
Well, so,
I mean, you want to provide us a savings guarantee,
right.
but you want us to provide the financing.
Well, you don't, right, you don't have to finance it if you didn't want to.
Well, are we going to take it out of our fund balance?
Well, I know, that's why most school districts finance these projects. But I think what it boils down to is two things. One is, what are the savings? Is it easy to verify? Is it real savings? Because they're going to occur whether we're around or not. And I've been doing this a long time, and I have been involved in litigation, and I know what works and what doesn't work, and what type of savings to use and what type of savings not to use. So how these projects are structured is a big deal.
That's correct.
And that's a big difference between companies' philosophy and
Well, that's why I want to know. I mean, if your company's saying, you know, we'll get you the financing and we'll guarantee you the financing and the savings, well, we might look at it. But I mean, and another, you know, I'm very hesitant because we had air conditioning replacements at the high school, and we had gentlemen that came before the board and said, you know, we're going to install all these new air conditioning equipment. Okay, it's going to cost you, I don't know, $5 million, but we're going to, these new air conditioners are going to be so energy efficient that in 10 years, these air conditioners are going to pay for themselves. That didn't happen.
Well, in 10 years, most of
Or
the units
even
down
20.
here, well, even most of the units here, because of
Well, I think Mr.
where we're
Limon, and I
located.
brought this up with Mr. Limon, did we ever get those savings that they promised us?
No, sir, because of the different air mixture that went in with the new laws changing. Now more air from the outside has to be brought in, and as a result, the energy cost goes up. So no, sir, we didn't.
That's why we have higher energy costs.
Okay, so can I make a suggestion to see if this would at least ease your mind a little bit? If we did the BCA and just the walkthrough, where we can actually get a better understanding of 5 facilities, and then instead of coming to your administration, whatever, if we had a school board workshop to go over procurement, to go over financing, to go over what our savings are, just to make sure that all these type of questions are asked. I'll have my engineers, I'll have my finance people, we'll have everyone there. And then at that point, if you don't like what you hear and the district doesn't want to move forward, you don't move forward. And there's no cost, obligation, or anything associated with doing that BCA. But I really think that based on some of the questions that you're asking, a workshop, and I would love for you to sit through a workshop so that we can really dive into some of these questions.
You know, that's the main question I have.
Yes, sir.
The question I have is that you're asking us to secure financing by signing San Benito School District will pay the bank, you know, $1 million, you know, to finance your project. All right, and you're guaranteeing us savings, but if we don't get those savings, we're still going to owe the bank. And I want to know if your company.
But we still have to write you a check to cover that. That's the part that we are guaranteeing the project. We're guaranteeing the dollars to pay for the note as if we were the bank.
Then you would be willing to sign that note, right?
I can't say that because I'm not.
Well, I'd like an answer to that.
Okay, I'll address that.
Very well.
Are there any other questions?
And my packets, my card is located in the packets. If you have any other questions, feel free to give me a call. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Also, on the superintendent's report, we have disbursements and have disbursements by organization. And that concludes the superintendent's report for this meeting.
All right, moving on to item number 8, school construction report.
Good afternoon. At Leal Elementary, the architect, the staff, and the contractor staff are going to be meeting this week after school and next week to make sure that they go over all the punch lists, to make sure all of that is taken care of already. TxDOT called and they said they have received all the signs. They're already in their office. They are beginning to build the basis where they're going to install them. So they think probably by the end of the week, early next week, they will have all the signs up that need to be on 732. At Frank Roberts and Landrum Elementary, foundation work has already been completed at Frank Roberts. Approximately 90% of the block has been completed in the classroom section of Frank Roberts. 30% of the block work in the cafeteria area at Frank Roberts have been completed. The block has been completed at Landrum, and 95% of the brick has been completed at Landrum. And so those are the projects that we currently have. We have a couple of items in the agenda. The roof at the high school is finally completed. The HVAC upgrade at the sports complex is already completed as well. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Ramon. You heard the presentation by the gentleman, correct?
Yes, sir.
I would like you and Mr. Montes to review the presentation, and I'd like your opinion on what you think.
Okay.
Maybe not right now, but, you know,
sure.
There's a lot of information. We're being asked as a district to engage in something that could cost us lots of money, and I want our professionals to review it, and I'd like your opinion.
I just would like to say something about the high school, is that we did not go through the company that we started with, because at the end they started backing up and saying, you know, we're not going to be able to do that.
I know.
And so we went to the street and went ahead, if you recall, and secured the proposals and did it that way. But yes, Mr. Montes and I will be glad to do that.
Or whoever you think you need to consult with.
All right.
And getting to some of the, I mean, is it okay if I ask, Ms. President, about some of the items on here? Or would you rather wait till these items are addressed individually?
He'll be available to answer it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item number 9, action agenda. In order to promote efficient meetings, the board may act upon more than one item by a single vote through the use of consent agenda. Consent items placed on the agenda shall be marked with an asterisk. Consent items are items for which no board discussion is anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. Prior to the time which approval of consent agenda is had, at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees, any item on the consent agenda shall be removed and given individual consideration. We'll go ahead and start off with business and finance. Item 1110A-1, request for approval of final completion of the sports complex HVAC renovation project. Consent. Item 1110A-2, request for approval to approve proposal for a fibrated acrylic wall coating from SolarGuard High Build for the high school.
Question.
Question by Mr. De La Fuente. Item number 1110A-3, request for approval of the final completion of the high school roof project. Consent. Item 1110A-4, request for approval for the purchase of the annual license agreement for Microsoft Office. Consent. Item 1110A-5, request for approval to approve software purchases for Angela G. Leal Elementary School, A, Living with Science Tech Labs, B, Compass Learning Subject Bundle. Consent. Item 1110A-6, request for approval of resolution approving independent sources of instruction relating to the investment responsibilities. Consent. Item 1110A-7, request for approval of Emma McCall as investment officer for the San Benito CISD. Consent. Item 1110A-8, request for approval of resolution approving annual review of the investment policy and investment strategies. Consent. Item 1110A-9, request for approval of 2010-2011 budget amendments. Consent. Item 1110A-10, request for approval of budget transfers. Consent. Under administration, item 1110A-11, request for approval of board minutes. Consent. Item 1110A-12, request for approval of the 2011-2012 class size waiver. Consent. Item 1110A-13, request for approval of attorney's fees proposal. Question by Mr. Huerta. I'd like to entertain a motion for items 1110A-1, 1110A-3, 1110A-4, 1110A-5, 1110A-6, 1110A-7, 1110A-8, 1110A-9, 1110A-10, 1110A-11, and 1110A-12. Motion made by Mr. Tumberlinson, seconded by Mr. Medrano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go ahead and go back to those items in question under Business and Finance. We had a question on 1110A-2, request for approval to approve proposal for a fiber-rated acrylic wall coating from SolarGuard High Build for the high school.
My question, Mr. Ramon, this is something that we're doing, I mean, to protect the warranty on the roof?
Keep in mind that building was built in '76, and the stucco, it's beginning to be porous, and so you have some moisture go through there. And my recommendation to do this is to go ahead and seal those walls, only the walls that touch a roof, so that we will not have a problem later with the roofer contractor saying, well, that seepage came through the wall and not through the roof.
But you're not spraying the roof, you're spraying the walls.
Yes, sir, the walls.
I was thinking that if this is going to protect the warranty on the roof, well, the roofer needs to pay for this. Because he's the one that's guaranteeing the roof.
Well, no, he is guaranteeing the roof, but keep in mind that the roof is here, and this wall I'm talking about is on top of the roof. It's on the hot wall area. And so that if you're gonna seal this area, and if you're gonna have some seepage going through here, it's an argumentative thing one way or the other. But if we're able to take care of that, then we do away with that problem about it came through the wall.
And is this going to do away with that problem?
Yes, sir. Okay. As far as the roofing contractor saying, well, that's where it came from, because now he's guaranteed both the wall and the roof.
Okay. How much does this cost?
About 38. You have the number. I don't have the exact number. 38 what?
$80. And we can use the money that we have from the IFA for
yes,
that.
Sir.
And problems that we had at Bertagabasa was that until we repaired that wall. Is that correct, David?
Right.
And we stopped that seepage coming in.
And it's a good time to do it now, since we just.
Yes, sir. And it's also I'm recommending the same company, because then he won't say, well, whoever was working on the roof wasn't careful with it, whatever. So it protects the district overall. Yes, sir.
That's a good price.
Motion made to approve item 1110A-2 by Mr. De La Fuente, seconded by Mr. Medrano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Question on item 1110A-13 under administration, request for approval of attorney's fee proposal.
Mr. Zebeda, it says here that the proposal you gave is within the line of every other districts, about the same size as ours, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the list, so you can show us?
What I have here is a survey that Region 1 did of really pretty much all the school districts in Region 1. And what it does, unfortunately, it shows what their hourly rates are, whether they're local, that kind of thing. The others, but what you need to keep in mind is it's not what they charge per hour, it's what they pay per year. And based on that, for a school district your size, let me take a step back. What happens is the way my retainer was originally structured when I first came in 8 years ago. What we did was we looked at your previous 3 years, what you were paying per year. And at that time, you were paying over $200,000 a year in attorney's fees. When I first came in, my monthly retainer was $15,000 per month. We did that, and that was still, that guaranteed you still a savings of close to $45,000 based on the average of your previous 3 years. Now, because we were able to, over the last few years, kind of control the litigation and keep your legal costs and issues down, we reduced it from $15,000 to its current level of $12,000 a month, which is now, even at that time, was $36,000 per year savings. So from the time I initially came in to the present time, you're paying close to $56,000 per year less than what more than that, I'm sorry, $66,000 per year less than what you were paying when I was first hired, based on what your previous attorney was charging. Now, you've asked, I understand these are hard economic times, it's hard economic times for me too. So what I've done here is still made a proposal that offers a 20% savings per year to the district, a total of another $24,000. And I believe that based on the volume of work that's generated by the district, you're looking at a guaranteed savings. What happens is, what you need to consider too, is the reason for the retainer was that there was no way, you never knew from month to month what you were going to pay. So there was no way to budget. So what this does is it allows you to budget a fixed amount, and you know you're never going to be charged any more than that, even if you get 20 lawsuits or 3 lawsuits. So it's to my advantage, and that's why it's been working this way, to try to do whatever it takes to keep you guys from getting sued, and it makes it easier because, again, a lot of times when you're charged on an hourly basis, they charge, what we sell is our time. So if you call me and ask me a question, I have to charge you for that because that's what I sell, that's my time. With this type of arrangement, anybody can call, any administrator with Mr. Limon's approval can contact me and talk to me at any time regarding any issue. So what we've been able to do is a more preventive law. That is, before something becomes a big problem, we take care of it. I can get involved earlier, and it doesn't cost you anything, versus already having a lawsuit. Sometimes it can't be avoided. We saw that this summer. My services also include attending any special hearings in Austin regarding determination of teachers. And see, and at that time we were having a lot of those issues too, where you've got to understand that one lawsuit can cost you $40,000, $50,000 a year. So if you got 3 or 4, and at that time you had like 6 or 7 lawsuits, you had issues appeals going on to TEA, you had lawsuits in Cameron County District Court. Then that's why your fees were so high. So in terms of what you're paying right now, even at my current level, before the reduction, I think it's very, very, very fair and very competitive compared to similar sized districts. And again, there's the survey. If you were to contact those districts that are paying $225 an hour, $295 an hour, you'll see that what they pay per year is more. So it's deceptive to put it that way. With me, you know exactly how much you're going to pay. And if you accept this proposal, you're guaranteed, here it is, $24,000 that you can use for other items, other budget items, whatever issues you want to use them for.
Mr. Acevedo, how many years of experience do you have in school board litigation business?
I've been representing school districts for 23 years this November. Even when I was in law school, I worked for a school law firm in Austin as a law clerk, and then once I graduated from law school, I've always worked for a school law firm, and then both in Austin and then in San Antonio. My business right now, I have my own business now. I don't need partners. I do associate with other attorneys every now and then. I was president I was the youngest president of the TASB Council of School Attorneys, and I've been active in both the state bar school law section and then the TASB School Lawyers Association. So, I mean, this is all I do. I don't do divorces. I don't do personal injury. I always tell people I know how to get myself thrown in jail. I don't know how to get out. I don't do criminal law. I represent school districts and cities, and that's the limit of my practice.
This proposal, I don't know if we do want to stay with the proposal, but is there any possible way that we can still go out and get other proposals?
That would be up to the board.
I would make a motion to get a.
I don't think that's on the agenda. It's either, the way the agenda reads, it's either this or, I guess you want to go out for proposals.
Yeah, to keep his, though, but to get other.
I think you would
I don't
have
know
to.
if we could do this or not.
Well, again, that's what was on the agenda the last time. And the board voted 4-3 to negotiate with me. And for me to tender a proposal, which is what I've done, in response to the vote that the going out for proposals was on the agenda last month, and then the board already voted on it. And that's why it's probably not on the agenda this month, because I did what I was supposed to do, which was submit a proposal.
I don't, well, it's up to the president, but I don't think that item's on the agenda. It's either, you can table this item, or vote for it, or vote it down. I mean.
Okay, with that said, if we were to consider to table this item, we would need to go up for a motion. Do I have a motion to table this item?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Huerta. Do I have a second?
No second, ma'am. So motion dies.
So it tables.
No, motion dies. There's no second.
Okay. Okay, then on item 1110A-13, request for approval of attorney's fees proposal.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Tumberlinson, seconded by Mr. De La Fuente. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 10, closed meeting. Discussion under the authority of the Texas Government Code 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. A, pending litigations. B, discussion, possible action on litigation, resolution with MALDEF on school finance. 551.074 for the purpose of the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. A, report on personnel. Time is 8:02, and we are now in executive. The time is 8:31, and we are returning from executive session. Item number 11, consider action on items discussed in closed meeting 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. A, pending litigations. B, discussion, possible action on litigation, resolution with MALDEF on school finance.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we approve the resolution with MALDEF on school finance.
I will second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Mr. De La Fuente, seconded by Mr. Medrano. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 551.074 for the purpose of the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. No action. And item number 12, adjournment. The time is 8:32.